Hello and welcome to another spiritual learning video. Today we're going to go over the topic of death and the afterlife. A spiritual world after death. Human beings are not eternal, and no matter how long their life is and how healthy they are, everyone knows that death awaits them at the end. Some people die accidentally due to sad coincidences of events. Others leave life according to their own will. Death occurs to all people without exception at the end of their lives. No matter how it happens, it is a subject of intense discussion and even experiments because all people are afraid, fascinated, and intrigued by what awaits them after their physical body stops functioning. The main question that is left without an answer but represents utmost importance for the whole of humankind is whether there is a spiritual world that awaits people after death. And if it really exists, what does it represent? The spiritual world for people means the immortality of their souls, which is generally highly important from the point of view of religion and philosophy. The Christian and Islamic religion pose much attention to the modest, humble, and correct life of believers who want to be gratified for their goodness in the afterlife. There are a number of sins that are punished by internal sufferings for the soul that are called to engage people in virtuous lives in the hopes for the happy afterlife. However, no matter whether heaven or hell expects their souls, it is clear that the mortal soul exists and proceeds from one world of earthly human beings to the eternal spiritual world. Other religions, such as Buddhism, deny the fact of the soul's existence and state that human life exists only due to the flow of superpowers and super energies in the world. Ancient philosophers dedicated much of their writing to issues of life and death. Analyzing the work of Epicurus and his opinion on death, it becomes clear that the philosopher was highly confident in the existence of the immortal soul and its transition from one form of living into another. However, he attributes more attention not to the death itself, but to the nature of fear of death. Epicurus relies on pure logic and practice. He approaches the subjectivity of this fear, trying to explain why it is senseless and foolish. He manages this point of view characterizing the act of death, finish of the human existence. Thus, he wonders why people should be afraid of death since it never concerns them directly. As long as people are alive, death is not the problem for them, since it is absent. As soon as they die, that is, death approaches them, they no longer exist, thus being unable to be concerned with it. Logically, Epicurus arrives at the generalization that only one of the two may exist simultaneously, either a person or death. Judging from this angle, Epicurus assumes that people should not be afraid of death because as soon as it comes, they will no longer exist. And while they exist, there will be no death. He also comments on humans' dissatisfaction with life. People are initially born to be happy. So in the case they are not happy and do not see a way to live their lives happily, they have to have a set of tools for leaving the life. Hence, he makes the conclusion that life cannot be sad or gloomy for people, and those who do not need it can leave it on their own will, thus getting free of the painful anticipation. Plato approaches the subject of the afterlife in a different way, trying to prove whether the soul is an immortal substance or not. Utilizing the main assumptions of logic, Plato starts with the argument that all people should be afraid of death unless the mortality of the human soul is proven. He assessed that the human soul surely lives longer than the human body, being able to exist in or as several people. However, he doubts that it is immortal. No matter how long it exists, there is an end of its existence. All people should fear death if they suppose they are at the final element of their existence. Socrates concludes Plato's dialogue by saying, "Then it seems when death attacks a man, his mortal part dies, but his immortal part retreats before death and goes away safe and indestructible." Plato's work goes on to say, finally, in conclusion, "Soul is immortal and imperishable, and our souls will indeed exist in another world." As one can see, ancient philosophy provides a strong basis for assuming that the human soul exists and proceeds to other worlds after death to be reborn in another creature afterward. Notwithstanding the fact that the immortality of the human soul is widely recognized by philosophy and religion, it is still evident that the question does not find a unanimous decision on the subject. Buddhism is a good example of a counter-argument to the existence of an immortal soul. Buddhism, in general, denies fear of death as the most wicked human weakness. The sense of possessing a soul that is actually unable to belong to anybody being a universal soul, the unity of energies and forces that govern the whole world, and not only one personality. For this reason, Buddhism calls not to be afraid of death because every creature and every object in the world suffers death and rebirth every single moment of life, making fear of death senseless. Summing everything up that has been said, it is possible to see the issues of the afterlife and the immortality of the soul having proponents and opponents in religion and philosophy. The greatest thinkers of ancient times, as well as modern philosophers, have been obsessed with determining the immortality of the soul, while Buddhism rejects its existence in general. In the grand scheme of things, nobody will ever know whether something awaits people after death, so the main source of information is human faith. My personal opinion on the issue is heavily influenced by the fact that I'm a medium and I speak to spirits. So I recognize that the soul exists after our body dies. In light of that, I made a bucket list of what I want to do after I pass. I want to go to Egypt and see the pyramids. I want to stand on top of one. From there, I'm heading to Greece to see the ancient ruins. I am Greek, so I'll also stop by and visit some family while I'm there. After I finish in Greece, I'm going to go to Italy. I'll probably see the city of Pompeii and the Leaning Tower of Pisa, most definitely. Then I'm off to Paris because I have to see the Eiffel Tower at least once. Yeah, so I'll be all over when I pass. And hey, who knows, I might even come visit you. Thank you guys so much for joining us on another spiritual learning video. For more content like this, check out the playlist Spiritual Learning for more. Don't forget to give this video a thumbs up, subscribe if you're not subscribed, share out if you enjoyed this, and we also have channel membership you can join down below. Thank you again for watching, and we'll see you on the next one.